This is my impromptu musical introduction. You're welcome. I know you guys enjoy my musical stylings. Uh-oh. Are you alarmed? Let's see, is there anybody... What's that Pink Floyd song? Anybody out there? Is that a song? Wait, I don't know. All right, we have sound, I believe. What's up, Coach Kevin?
Not much.
Not much? I was thinking of something today. Reminded me of Jiu Jitsu. It's something about shooting.
Yeah.
Shooting.
Pew pew.
As I like to call it. Is a question, right? If you're going to get a rifle and you want to shoot long distance, how accurate does your rifle have to be? So they have this concept called, or not concept, but measurement called MOA, minutes of angle, right? Which is essentially like a measure of how close your shots are at a given distance. Your shot,
Spread.
Your spread pattern, right? So, you know, a pretty good rifle would be 1 MOA, right?
Is
At
that
100 yards, it would be within like an inch. Like basically, your shot would always be within an inch.
1 inch per 100 yards.
And then you would spread it out, right? It would go, you know, for every minute.
Is 2 MOA 2 inches per?
From at 100, or whatever. I mean, you would say such MMA at so many yards.
Radius?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And, you know, and then other people would say, you know, like, okay, one MMA is really good, but like for precision, you should get something that's
0.1.
Yeah, I mean, if you have .1 rifle, you know, yeah, I mean, it's going to cost you like $50,000 or something, but like 0.5.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's crazy. If you think about it, like my thumb is about an inch. Like this little digit, the first digit of your thumb is like an inch. That's my general rule of thumb. Oh, look at that.
Wasn't the rule of thumb like it had to be less than an inch in diameter to beat your
Yes.
I was just going to say, it's not the right rule of thumb.
You know, the author of this article that I was reading was like, and he was, you know, an expert marksman / instructor, marksmanship instructor. He's like, you know, are you paying for too much precision that you're not using? Right? Like, so his point was, you know, you can get a lot of like out of the box factory rifles that shoot 1 MOA. Yeah. Right? And
depending on your needs, that might be all you need.
And you know, that was essentially his thing. It was like, you know, if you go and you buy, like you're a beginner, and you go and you buy that 0.5 MOA rifle, you are not going to shoot that well. Why? Because you suck, right? You're a beginner. Yeah. Right? So it's like I could get the baseball bat.
I can't wait till we circle this back.
I could go get like the custom baseball bat or a golf clubs or whatever piece of equipment that you can imagine and spend a fortune on them. But if I don't have just the basic fundamental skills to actually make use of that, it's a waste of money. And then what he was saying was like, if you assuming that you are an expert marksman, right? And you do everything perfectly, what is the difference in accuracy for a 0.1 or for a 1.0 versus a 0.5 MOA?
Depends on the distance.
Depending on the distance, but you can plot it all out. Yeah. Right? You plot it all out, and the difference is, right, 4%. Yeah. You're 4% more accurate at 700 yards with this than you would be with the other one. Again, but this is not an improvement that you, the amateur beginner, is going to notice, because
I'm shooting from 100 yards.
Well, but even if you were shooting at 700, you're probably never going to hit the target because if you can't actually do all the things, you know, and forget about. I mean, sometimes you can sit on a bench and you can put your your rifle on a stand where it's immobilized,
That's
like a
fun.
vise, and you can just just pull the trigger. And yeah, but that's not marksmanship.
No,
you know,
you're
that's
just-
like the game at the fair where
No,
it's
at that-
connected to the thing.
At that point, you're just marveling at its engineering.
Yes.
So, like,
yes.
look at how awesome this gun is.
Because you're never going to shoot from a vise in any actual practical application.
It would be weird.
It's just a test for the accuracy of the weapon.
Yeah.
It's not really it's not a usable.
Or decided it.
Or to what? Well, to sight it in, yes. Right? So
So is this a comment on like white belts with shoyu-rogies?
no, I mean, it's actually what made me think of were all the variations on the question of what should I do to get ready to do jiu-jitsu?
What are you trying to get ready for?
I mean, it's
What do you want to
like
do?
your first class, or you know, either like I saw a funny thing on Reddit where they had like the biggest like shit posts on Reddit.
Have you switched social medias to Reddit now?
Yeah, I'm on Reddit, right? I mean, I'm bored, right? I'm like, okay, let's go. I haven't done anything on Reddit. I haven't read Reddit, so I'll just go check out Reddit now.
Yeah.
So I'm on there, and the article is like the best BJJ shit posts, you know, over the last 5 years or whatever. And the one, like number one was, I'm still a sperm in my dad's nutsack. Is it too late for me to start jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
And it just made me laugh, you know, because there's this constant stream, and totally legit, right? Like, we're laughing about it, but it's totally understandable. It takes a lot of guts to come into a place that you pretty much know
Just gonna get your ass beat.
you're gonna get your ass beat. And even if you don't get your ass beat, it's not gonna be like an easy road. It's not like they just, okay, you wrestled D1, therefore
Yeah.
you get a black belt, you know, or purple belt.
It's
No, they're even
probably
harder on you. It's even harder. Even more is expected of you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, like I mean, personal note, like I wouldn't have done jiu-jitsu had my hand not been held the entire 4 first months. Like my sister was there, and
Yeah.
she was like, everything's gonna be fine. And I wanted to be there, but like it helped so much to have like
To have a friend.
support. Yeah,
Yeah.
to just be like, just a word of encouragement.
Yeah.
Which is, this was a scary place with people who I was very afraid of. You know?
and I think that's the, you know, one of the assumptions, you know, coming in when people ask these questions, not me, but just in general, is like, I need to like build up my physical fitness.
Oh, yeah.
I need to get tougher. I need to do all these things. Like, what videos should I watch, or you know what?
It's like I need to change myself before I need to engage in this thing. Like I'm not good enough
I
yet.
had a great guy, come in, right? And he was like all into jiu-jitsu. He's like, I'm gonna start. I have a new job. You know, I'm doing this. I'm doing that. He's like, I signed up his whole family. You know, it was like 5 people, bought gis, everything. This was a couple of years ago. And he's like, I'll see you next week. He paid me tuition. I'll see you next week. And he disappeared. He never came back. I'm not even lying. He paid up front for like 3 months for his entire family, and then didn't show up. None of them. I saw him in a supermarket parking lot.
Were you like, what's up?
I'm like, dude, where did you go? And he's like, oh, you know, we had a death in the family. You know, my grandmother died. And I was like, oh yeah, that's hard. I get it.
I'll do
He's
it.
like, but I'll be there next month. And I was like, yeah, I've heard that one before.
It happens.
But I don't know. I'm not making fun of that guy. I'm just using it as an example of like, there's a lot of people who come in. I've had many people who come in and talk my ear off about how much they've always wanted to do jiu-jitsu and they can't wait and they're going to do it next week. And I never see. I mean, I had one guy say, another guy, like he sat there for an hour and a half telling me about all the things, and then he never saw him again.
Yeah, that happens.
And I don't know what happened, you know, to that sentiment, but it's not really you shouldn't need like great equipment to do jiu-jitsu, because there's not really that much equipment to be had.
But it's not about the gear. It's not about
Yes.
if you're worked out enough, or it's not about who you are. It's just like buy a gun, go shoot. You know.
Just go, yeah, just start. Just, you know, the biggest thing, most important thing is to go to the place and start doing whatever it is that you're going to do.
Yeah.
Right? That's it. You know, there's like no magic. You have people that are trained, like some people say, well, I want to get a good school, and they're like, yeah, that's all important. But there are people that are training in like terrible conditions, like without mats, you know, on dirt. and are getting really, really, really good. Because why? Because they're not like, oh, I need to have mats. They just train. And we're lucky in this country because most schools are going to have mats. But you know what my point is, right? Like, all you need is another person to start training.
Mats help.
Mats are good. And I think most places will have a mat. But,
Most places.
but really, it's just like, just get started.
Yeah, everything else is superfluous.
I've seen people that come in and they're physically out of shape. They're fat, they're skinny, they're you know,
Out of shape.
out of shape. They can't do push-ups, they can't do pull-ups, they can't do, you know, anything. And over time, they get stronger.
Yeah, it happens. Or it won't, they'll get tougher.
I remember there's a line, I wish I could actually remember the quote from Fight Club, where he talks about when guys first start and they start doing the Fight Club and they're like fat and weak and whatever. He's like, after they've been here for a month, these guys are made of wood.
Yeah.
You know, like that's how tough they are.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in jiu-jitsu. At some point in jiu-jitsu, if you train, right?
Yeah.
You will get tougher. You will.
I just don't like the.
Unless you get broken and injured by doing stupid stuff.
That's the thing, like the Fight Club analogy. I don't know, like, 'cause that wasn't like. That's not the best model.
No. But I'm not saying like.
But yeah,
like,
I
obviously
understand.
they're on an accelerated plan there. Where, you know, the one guy gets his eye knocked out of his face in one of the fights. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if you give yourself, you just said I'm going to train jiu-jitsu for a year.
Yeah.
And you just come consistently and do your best for a year. I don't care what school you go to, you will be physically tougher at the end of that year.
Yeah.
You know, if it's a legit jiu-jitsu school that you're actually sparring all the time,
Yeah.
as you should be, right?
I would say like the people who are like, I need to do a thing before I do jiu-jitsu, I would say just don't really want to do jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
And so they have this thing that they also don't want to do. They put that in
That's
front
right.
of
Yes.
jiu-jitsu and they're like, okay, as soon as I can do that,
Which I'll never do.
which I'll probably never do, then I'll do
Yeah,
jiu-jitsu.
they're putting that precondition in, like,
Yeah, so it's like it's an excuse.
I would do it, but I'm trying to get better shape, you know?
But it's
Look, it doesn't matter, you're gonna get your butt beat anyway, so just come in and start getting your butt beat.
like because usually just like you said, like you're gonna get strong, you're gonna get tough. The thing that you're putting in front of jiu-jitsu kind of is like the consequence of doing jiu-jitsu. So just like do the jiu-jitsu, you will get stronger, and then you can continue doing the jiu-jitsu, like the original plan was, except for doing this other thing that you don't like to do. You know, just do the thing, and then maybe as you do jiu-jitsu, you'll realize that like, oh, it would help if I could
Yes.
like squat
Yes.
a lot, or deadlifts might help,
Or just any kind of exercise.
mobility,
Yes.
yoga, and then you start doing other things. But if you don't already like getting in shape, then putting that as your like jumping off point is going to be very difficult.
And I'll tell you what, if you don't like going to the gym, I don't like going to the gym, to be honest.
I like going.
You like going. I don't really enjoy the experience in most gyms. I like going to the gym with friends, because at least you have a friend. You know, I hate going to the gym by myself.
I don't like talking to people.
Well, okay, everyone has their thing, right? I enjoy embarrassing myself with weights in front of my friends.
I can
but-
do that by myself.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? I was gonna say,
People don't like going to the gym.
if you don't like going to the gym, right, totally understandable. Don't make that the precondition to start something else like you're saying. But I would say that you probably will. If you don't like going to the gym, there's a good chance you will like training jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Because it's totally social, it's totally engaging, your brain is like getting a workout, you're learning new things, you're gonna get a sense. It's not like, look, you do get a sense of improvement with weights. The nice thing about lifting weights is that you will get, if you do it, you will get strong,
Yeah.
right? As long as you do it right.
New gains are real.
And especially in the beginning,
Yeah.
you know, if you haven't been working out, you're gonna get a lot stronger faster. But jiu-jitsu is the same way, but without all the potential embarrassment of like not being able to lift.
There isn't.
But here's the thing, right? If you walk into the gym, I think, people are going to be self-conscious. If you're going into the gym for the first time, you're out of shape, you know, you're intimidated by all these guys or women, whatever, and then you're going to get down there and you're going to do like the bar, right? Or the bar and like the really small weights, right? And you're not going to do it because you feel like embarrassed, you feel intimidated, right? Now,
Same jiu-jitsu.
right?
and no one really cares.
No one really cares at the gym.
Nobody cares at the gym. No, I mean that's important to know too, right? Like, when I look at people, if wherever I'm at, and I see that person, I admire that person. I'm like, that takes, like this person is coming in and doing it.
Every single person on this planet has been that person at some point.
At some point.
Nobody was
Especially
out.
the biggest dudes in the gym, right?
Everybody.
Everybody.
Like, nobody came out of the womb benching 135. But it's like we've all been through that period of feeling weak, feeling like we're not, strong enough, like people who tend to gravitate towards lifting weights, And then it's just that period of like, I don't really belong here, but I'm just gonna keep showing up.
And that takes guts. Takes guts. I admire those people. Like I see the people that are like, probably maybe a little overweight or more than a little overweight on the treadmill, like sweating it out. Yeah. I'm like,
go.
Yeah, look, you're making yourself better. You're improving yourself. And what I was gonna say about is in jiu-jitsu, everybody was a white belt.
Yeah.
Everybody was that person for however long, and I think there is much more of an appreciation for the hardworking, dedicated white belts. I do. I have a lot of appreciation for them, who come in and get punished for a while, and I think that's just a lot more. People will help you. I don't know in a gym if you go in and you're like, if you ask for help, people will help you.
They will.
If you just go in and start trying to lift weights, I don't know how many people will actually come up to you and help you unprovoked, because it's kind of rude.
Unless you're actively
doing something
hurting
for
yourself.
yes.
And even then, I'll probably
they might just laugh. They might just video you.
I wouldn't do that either, but
I've seen a lot of those gym fail videos.
Well, some people get really mad if you try and give them advice.
Yes.
So I don't do it. Like I've had people approach me, and I wasn't in a state of mind where I was receptive to things. I was like, I gotta listen. It was polite, but in my head I was like, get away from me. But in situations
I saw some video where it was a woman. She was like some sort of Romanian Olympic athlete, and she's doing pull-ups, legit, and some rando dude was like, oh, and they had this on video. Oh, you're doing those wrong.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm pretty sure she could do a lot more pull-ups than you can, dude.
Well, that's also
And she was just doing unconventional things, right? Because she's super strong. She's a great athlete.
Yeah, and he just wanted to talk, probably.
I don't know
say for sure.
But I'm just saying, right?
Yeah. But normally, unless you can tell a person is in the zone, if you catch someone in a rest set and they seem like they're not completely, and even if they do seem completely kind of mean and angry, odds are they might help you out if you ask politely. If you're not hey bro, I want to chat your ear off, tell me everything you know about bench. You just be like, hey
bro,
man,
what are you taking?
Just hey man, could you spot me?
Yeah.
That is the thing that is pretty much
Universal,
commonly acceptable.
yeah.
Everyone needs a spot, and if that doesn't work, don't talk to that guy anymore. Talk to someone else. So that guy is not receptive to that thing. But most gyms, I think, especially the bigger people, unless they're actively working,
right.
They've got a lot of knowledge and a lot of.
When they're in the middle of their 450 bench, and you're like, hey bro.
I would start by just asking for a spot.
Right.
And then, if they say no, they're busy, great, and it's the same thing with asking upper belts to roll, right? You don't want to interrupt them while they're doing something to ask them a bunch of questions. You wait until they're available, and if they look like they might be interested in helping you.
I think though in jiu-jitsu it's much more common for people to help out the new person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If sometimes it's almost too much, right?
Yeah. The etiquette, I think, it is more acceptable to go up to a white belt and explain everything that they're doing wrong. And
or even in the middle of a roll, right? Which is not the best thing to do, but people are trying to help you, right? If for nothing else than to help themselves feel good about what they know and you don't.
You're probably not interrupting their flow, I would say. But yeah, I don't know. I think most people in most places are willing to help out, unless it's obvious that they are.
You mean gym-wise, or you mean just
in gym-wise, any sort of athletic endeavor.
Yeah. Well, some people are not if you go pick up basketball.
Yeah.
No one's gonna teach you how to shoot a jump shot.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe they would, but probably not.
If you go to an academy and join their competition team for training, that's probably not the time to ask technical questions. You're there to to
Train.
drill and do the things that they're doing,
Yes.
right? But like maybe after class, or if you have time before class and they're not
Right.
focused.
I mean, almost always I've seen, like, when you go to a competition class,
Yeah.
if you want to drill before the class, you're probably going to find a partner.
Yeah, and you
Right.
can probably ask an upper belt, be like, hey, like, I would like to drill, would you like to drill? Would it be okay if we drill together? And if they're like,
Yeah.
no, I want to drill with this guy over here.
But here's this other guy, or you
Yeah.
can work in, or,
Yeah.
you know, screw off. Who are you, white belt?
Yeah. I don't know, there's some like black belts who just don't want to be talked to. Depends.
That's true.
There's people.
That is true, but you know, like they're probably not. If you're polite and respectful, they're probably not going to hold it against you. They'll probably be like, "All right, no, but
Yeah.
okay."
Yeah.
This is a person who wants to get better.
I have seen white belts get yelled at by black belts for asking them to roll. So I should.
Well, I'm not saying asking to roll. I'm saying drilling.
drill it, like any sort of asking is frowned upon in some gyms.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
It's also a lot of like how you ask, why, when you're asking. You know,
how
like
much eye contact you're making,
I mean,
the
it's.
context.
I don't think I would not recommend a white belt to just ask any random black belt. You know,
Yeah.
if it's an instructor and you ask at an appropriate time, hey, can you show me how to do this? Or hey, can we roll from this position because I'm confused? Or you make it related to like whatever the lesson is that they were teaching.
Yeah.
Then I think you're gonna have a better time.
But yeah, just being like, hey, want to roll?
I got Ty's cousin.
Yes.
And I don't know, he's just goofy. But he was like, I don't know, just like he threw me off because he came up to me and was like, hey bro, wanna roll? And it's been like so long since a new person had come in and broed me like in this academy. It was great.
This is why I like judo, because judo is much more formalized.
Nah, I hate that.
And you just
I don't like that.
I mean,
I don't like the formality. Like I don't want to bow to anybody.
no, I mean I'm not saying that. I'm saying like there is a hierarchy, and it kind of helps everybody
We have
in a way. It's certain, but it's much more rigid in this room. And I'm not gonna say like it's all good, right? Because it's not. But you know, like I think there's much more of a sense that you don't do certain things without really severe repercussions. You know, in judo,
No,
if you're disrespectful.
I feel like with judo and other traditional martial arts, like, because jiu-jitsu has that respect hierarchy, it's just not written down. You know, like when you go to a school, they don't have a list like, call your professor, da 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 da, versus like when I went to karate, like before we did things, they taught us everything we had to learn.
Yeah. All the formalities, all the
That's part of the reason I left traditional martial arts. Like the part of the reason why I liked jiu-jitsu so much, it was people on the mat
Yeah.
doing the same thing together,
Yep.
trying to get better.
Yep.
I respected the hell out of my instructors,
Yep.
and they told me specifically to never call them sensei. So I called them sensei because it's fun.
Just to piss them off.
But no, not really. But just that like that sense of, I don't know. It's just like there is a hierarchy, but they don't force you to follow it. You just kind of find it and you learn the rules, just like regular society. You know, like you
That's
just
true.
interact with people and you learn how to interact with people and you learn the consequences of interacting with people in ways that you shouldn't. And it's just, I don't know. I like it. I like the not bowing, not having to say a student creed or anything. Like pictures on the wall of old dead people. That's nice, you know?
And they have that in jiu-jitsu too.
Some places, not.
I was thinking about getting some portraits.
Portraits are cool.
You know,
I've-
I'll have a portrait of me right in the middle
Only if we could bow to it every day.
every day.
I'll come in.
You have to figure out where I am in the world relation, you know, and then bow to that direction.
You got a GPS on your watch, right?
You know, yeah. I'll just call it in.
Bring it with you.
I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, if I completed the circle of the like shooting, don't worry about like. It's kind of like the don't worry about all the things that you think are like barriers to entry,
Yeah.
and
Do the
just
thing.
start doing the thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the moral of the story. Don't let these other things that aren't really stopping you. Like, they're not.
Yeah, like if you want to learn how to juggle, you don't need to wait.
You don't have to take a course. You don't have to wait till the circus comes to town and ask your clown to teach you how to juggle.
Pick up 3
Go to
minutes.
YouTube, you know?
Yeah.
I taught myself to juggle when I was like 11 years old, one summer, and I had nothing to, this is the value of like having nothing to do and being absolutely bored. And having, you know, like all the time in the world in my hand. And all I did is I went outside, I got 3, like, I guess they're tennis balls probably.
Yeah.
I don't remember what they were, but I'm
That's
sure there's something I could just grab.
Tissues.
And I was just like, I'm just gonna try to look kind of like I was okay, you know? And that was it. I think that's true too of like if you want to go and compete.
What do you mean?
You know, some people will say, well, I'm not going to compete till I'm a blue belt.
Oh yeah.
Or I'm not going to compete until I get that stripe. Or I'm not going to compete until I feel like I'm better in the gym. You know, like I'm beating some people that maybe are making it harder.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not gonna do it until I can bench press 185, because I think I need to be really strong for competition. You know, as opposed to what I always tell people, which is, if you want to compete, sign up for the tournament.
Yeah.
Go and compete.
Probably.
Period.
The less you think about it, the better. Like if you were like maybe competing, it'd be cool. That's the time.
Just go do it.
Yeah, just go do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
You know, I see sometimes people, you know, maybe they see, I mean, I've seen this too, where it's like, this guy is too good in my division, so I'm gonna wait till he gets promoted and then I'll go. Or I'm gonna cut weight. I'm gonna cut weight so that I don't have to compete at this weight class because these guys are you know, are too good, or you know, whatever it is. I mean,
skinny people are good at jiu-jitsu too.
I mean, I've discovered this firsthand, right? Like.
Yeah.
Everyone at every weight class that I could potentially get into,
Yeah.
there are some really good people in that weight class.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got my ass beat by pretty much every weight class, you know, that there is, that I could get to. Lightweight, middleweight, I don't think I ever went to heavyweight. Mostly
This is
lightweight.
gonna be super heavy 2021.
I mean, I'm light heavy right now.
It's gonna be a long, delicious year. We could both get up to super heavy if we try.
Well, here's the thing about that, is that I actually think that when you go up in weight,
I find that it's a little bit easier.
Everyone's slower.
Because
Until you get that one guy who isn't, and he's just a monster.
the reason I would say that I think it's easier is that I'm never going to try to outstrength that person. When you try to outstrength people, if you're not the strongest person, you know what I mean? So you just kind of take that off the.
Yeah.
You know, that was one of the big things, the revelations that I had at one point or another, which was, why are you trying to just power your way with a dude who's much bigger than you or much stronger, right? And you know that they're stronger. I remember, I used to do, I forget what sweep it was, but I used to do the sweep. Maybe it was like that from the X guard. Something like that, where you stand up and everything. You know, or maybe it's I don't know, I don't remember. But, you know, it's like the person was just smashed me down. And, and I try to get back up and just, you know, and it's like this contest of like, who's stronger?
Yeah.
Like technically, at that point, I wasn't doing something technically that was improving my chances of executing, right? The person has shut it down.
Yeah.
And I'm still like, okay, I'm gonna.
That has value.
If you're stronger, it has value.
No.
It has value in the sense that you learn that it doesn't work.
It has, I think, it shouldn't be a reproach to training, but, you know, every once in a while you're gonna approach someone or be approached by someone and roll with them. Who has just as good of technique as you, who has just as good cardio, just as strong.
I mean, maybe you, not me.
No, like everyone. Like you're gonna meet your match, and at that point, it's up like who wants it more. And if you haven't practiced that with someone that you are safe with and you're able to train with safely, you're gonna lose
That's true. That is true. But
that shouldn't be the focal point of your training.
But I would say the sooner you learn that you shouldn't be muscling things as your go-to kind of like, oh, I'm just going to do this sweep.
But are you only going to learn it by doing it?
No, I'm not saying don't do the sweeps or not do the thing.
By trying it and you realize it doesn't work.
Yes, you do. At some point, like that's the revelation,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, this is not working for me.
Yeah.
You have to change your direction, or change your tact, or change your tactics, or change, you know what I mean, or your strategy,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, okay, I can't do double legs,
Yeah.
right? Okay, or maybe I can only do them on certain people. Some of the time, I gotta come up with something else,
Yeah.
right? Maybe there's some other way. I saw a cool thing. I was watching a wrestling video today.
Pro wrestling or
No, like real, like high school wrestling or college wrestling. And the guy was doing this this ankle pick into a low single. It was like an arm drag to an ankle pick to a low single, but he was finishing the low single in a way that I hadn't seen before. And I was like, wow, it's a really cool way to do it. And it was, you know, it's all predicated on the person does this, right? Like, okay, you get to the ankle, and what he was showing was the person kicks out,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, they don't try to like bowl you over or sprawl. They can't sprawl because you have their leg. So instead they try to just kick out. And so he's showing a way to like follow the kick. The person comes back into you, then you go off to a low single. And he was like, you know, I know some of you guys are gonna say I don't like shooting low singles. And he's like, you don't have to be good or like shooting low singles. You're in the position. It's just a question, can you finish it? It's already there.
Yeah.
The person, if they do this, they will give you the low single. So finish it.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to, I'm gonna go do the double leg now.
And just do it hard.
Which maybe you're Jordan Burroughs and you can just double leg somebody from these types of positions, but probably you're not as good as Jordan Burroughs.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just another example I'm saying of like,
But it's like, the thing is, if you identify as a person who doesn't do low singles, even if you see that low single, if you haven't trained it,
Yes.
it's not your best opportunity.
Well, here's
Like,
the
you need to train that low single.
that may be your only opportunity to score in the match.
But you're probably not even going to see it.
But you have to train. That's why he's showing the technique.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, you're right.
And
If
then-
all I do is this thing,
First step is seeing it. Second step is believing that it's possible to do the thing. And if you haven't
Yes.
drilled that thing,
Yeah, yeah.
you're not going to have
you're not
that.
gonna have that belief.
Yeah.
That is, John talks about that all the time. Talks about, you know, like this you should get to this position. This is an important, you should fight for it,
Yeah.
right? Because you have the faith of the knowledge that if you can get to here and stay here, you win the match.
Yep.
And it's the, you know,
Faith-based jujitsu.
you gotta believe in it, right? If you don't
Yeah.
believe in it,
I
then
mean-
you're gonna give it up.
It's
And then you're never gonna get it, right?
it's an interesting. Yeah, I've been grappling with, you know, because I do feel like most of our like jujitsu is like kind of faith-based. Honestly, like the justifications that we use to say that things work are like, you know, just intuition-based. But like my goal when I'm teaching people is not just to like have people understand and be able to communicate what's going on, but to be able to intuitively understand what's happening. And that intuition can't be talked into a person. Like they need to be there, they need to feel it, they need to get that
Yeah,
sense
That's
of
true.
familiarity.
You gotta do it. You gotta do again. You gotta do it.
You gotta be there.
You can watch all the videos, right? You can go to the seminars. You can like listen to your instructor, watch your instructor. But until you are actually like
Present.
putting yourself in the position, doing it,
Yep.
it's not gonna happen.
It's a long road. It's a lot of pieces you gotta put together.
No, there's one piece. You know what the piece is? Just do it. Oh, I should trademark that. That's a good saying. No, just like get on the mat. Like start training. You want to start competing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just do it.
How much thinking do you do when you roll? Do you think white belts and blue belts should, like, I'm very pro not thinking when I'm rolling, but I don't know if that's the best strategy for lower belts.
I think your thinking should be done before and after. During is very difficult. Now, there may be, I mean, because during really you don't have time to react.
Sometimes if you like get to a good solid position and you've
Well,
got
yeah.
control, you've got time to think, which is nice.
But even then you're not, I don't find myself really thinking that much. It's more like I'm just doing,
Yeah.
right? I've obviously done it enough times that I have an idea of what I want and what this person's going to do to prevent it. And what like what they could do to whatever counter.
But you're not thinking about it.
You know, I think on a higher level of, in any moment, I might think about like, is there a better way for me to do this, right? So for example, like, and this is more actually, maybe it happened when I was rolling and then I started thinking about it later, but I remember, like worm guard. I remember Josh, he was getting good at worm guard, and he's a strong dude, and he'd get worm guard on me, and he got to a point where, at one point I could just walk right out of it, and I was just laugh, but then he got better at it, and I couldn't just walk out of it. And so at that point, I was starting to get really tired, trying to like break the grips and pass the worm guard. And so, at some point I was like, I think during the roll, I was like, this is dumb, right? There's no points in this. I'm not rolling for points, not tournament.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna let him sweep me, and then I'm gonna like full lock him when we get down to the, I don't have to. This is the kind of thinking I'm doing. Right? Like, okay, well if I just get swept and take his ankle, like I'm gonna have an advantage. Why? Because he's operating on the premise that I'm gonna resist the sweep the entire time.
Yeah.
But if at some point I just say, I don't care if you sweep me, I'm gonna steam lock you. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna win.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have to directly, right? And then afterwards I'm like, why didn't I think of that before? Like I'm sitting here getting exhausted, trying to like overpower somebody who has a superior grip on me, right? Is just bigger and stronger than me. I'm actually playing into his hands. I'm making it easier for him. It's like the person, I was talking about this the other, were you here? I was talking about the quicksand. Yeah, I was talking about when I did Monday, when I couldn't be here. Talking about quicksand, like, I remember you said when I was a kid, there were all these shows where people would wind up in quicksand. Yeah. Right? And then what was the thing with quicksand?
It's not a thing.
What?
It's not a thing. No, sorry.
It is not a thing, but like in the shows, there was like a strategy for quicksand.
You're supposed to not move.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The harder you struggle, sorry to be spit on you, the harder you struggle, the faster you drown in a quicksand.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same principle, right? You're stuck. If you struggle like a wolf caught in a trap or something, you're just gonna wear yourself out and die.
Do you feel like in that case it's an element of like goalpost moving? Because when you started the roll, both of you were like kind of playing points jiu-jitsu, and then you decided, I don't care about points anymore.
No, you're always, when I do jiu-jitsu, I'm never doing, unless we're doing a drill that's like
points.
Only points.
Yeah.
We do a submission martial art.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's the thing.
Like submission is always on the table. Now, certain submissions may or may not be.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm not going to heel hook him from the position because we're wearing gis, and that would be a jerk move.
Would it be a jerk move if you thought that he was playing point jiu-jitsu and then you decided to kind of subvert his expectations?
Who plays point jiu-jitsu? Part of
people
point
who are playing worm guard are playing point jiu-jitsu.
Well, then they are not doing the right jiu-jitsu.
It's like, but that's what.
If you're doing worm guard so poorly that I can footlock you, then you need to get footlocked.
No, but I'm thinking like, because I feel like if both of your expectations start that you're both trying to play this specific game where like being on top kind of matters, right? And then suddenly midway, you kind of change the expectations.
Like if we were in a competition class, right?
Yeah.
But no, even then, we are in a sport where it doesn't matter how many points you have. If I submit you within the time limit, I win the match.
I've gotten yelled at though from visiting other teams, and like I was rolling with people.
That's just being there.
It was their competition team, and I couldn't pass. I was like, all right, like new strategy. I'm gonna drop on a footlock.
Yeah.
And I did, and it worked. And it was great. But then afterwards, they were like, hey, we need you to play like people in tournaments play because if people don't do that, we're training for the wrong thing. So we need you to like play this strategy. So it's like I don't know. I consider the expectations of people.
If that is the expectation, if the coach comes in and says today we are only doing points, I don't want anybody sitting back on footlocks because you can't pass because we're working on our guards in this situation. Okay, then it's a structured, agreed upon thing. Fine. Like we all decide to like take certain variables out of the equation to make it so that we can work on or focus on other parts of the equation. Mm-hmm. Like that's okay. That's fine. It's like when I go to batting practice, I don't have a real pitcher throwing as hard as they can. Yeah. Right? It's why? Because it's not for the pitcher. It's for me. It's batting practice. So they're going to throw whatever it is that I want where I want it, so I can practice my swing for that. If I wanted to practice with a live pitcher, I'll say, hey, throw what you want. Let me see what you got, and we'll play that game. Yeah. But if we're just rolling around in a jiu-jitsu school, and like I said, if we're rolling under a kind of agreed upon rule set, right? Like, if it's we're in a gi, I'm not going to heel hook you.
Yeah.
Because it's just not done, right? There's no rule set that allows you to heel hook somebody if they're wearing a gi, or you're wearing a gi.
Yeah.
So that you shouldn't be doing that. That's kind of a crap move. Or doing techniques that are illegal. If you're doing that, like if you're purple belt training, and I don't know what rules, like, what's illegal for purple belts?
Knee bars.
Knee bars, thank you. Okay, don't do knee bars. It's purple belt training. Okay. I wouldn't personally do a knee bar on a purple belt if they were like a tournament type of person, right? Because I probably wouldn't. Because then they would say, oh, I don't know that.
Yeah,
That's not fair.
If they're training for tournament, yeah, that makes sense.
You know what I mean? But if you're not that person, if you're just rolling, we're just all together, we're rolling. If it's no-gi, I probably won't heel hook you if you're new.
Yeah.
But if you've been doing it for a couple of years, I will probably try to heel hook you.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if people try to heel hook me all the time. Like, okay, so.
Can I say
Yes.
that? I think one of my favorite times of my jiu-jitsu, or like in my journey, was when I stopped caring about being on top or on bottom. In general.
Yes.
Like when I stopped, because I used to like get swept and I'd be like,
Oh no.
oh no,
Oh crap,
and
it's
then
over.
you're beating yourself up on the last 45-degree turn instead of doing anything useful.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
as soon as you stop being disappointed in yourself and you just do the next thing that you got to do, you're gonna get so much better, right? Because like if you don't think of being swept as a loss,
Right.
it doesn't have to be.
It could even be a sweep. Could be
An
what
opportunity.
you want.
Yeah, or like getting rolled, or I'll be on top of side control and I'll get like rolled over unexpectedly, and instead of being like, oh no, you just keep going with it and you do whatever opportunity you can think
Part
of.
of the game.
I had an instructor. He used to. He was rolling with one of our older members at the club. It was John Hill and Evan Hinweiler, and they were rolling. And I just remember like Evan out of nowhere, like caught this thing that I'd never seen before. It was just like he just found it out of nothing, and it was like right after John had just done this perfect escape.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just gotten out of this like I thought he was going to be all the way up, and just like pulled it out of nowhere, and just like found a thing.
Yeah.
And afterwards, like John was like, man, like how'd you like do that? How'd you think of it? And he was like, and Evan was like, you shouldn't like mourn what you don't have. You shouldn't be let like what you've lost upset you. Because if you're busy thinking about that, you don't look at the opportunities.
What's happening?
And all he was focused on was what else could he do?
At some point you get to know
What you can do.
like all those things. But if you're always like what your backups or your fail safes or your opportunities, right? A sweep can turn into a submission, can turn into a back take, can turn into a whole swing, like a complete swing of the battle.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times I get very frustrated in watching jiu-jitsu, watching somebody keep doing something that is not working for them. They're not making progress. It's hard to kind of see that sometimes. You see some people who, it's like that last minute, right? You've had an 8-minute match, because you're round, or 10-minute match, whatever, and you spend 9 minutes trying to pass this person's guard, right? And then at some point during the match, they got an advantage, or they were able to score a point on you, or whatever. So you're down points, right? You have a minute to go. What do you do?
Jump off footlock.
No, you continue to do the thing that has not worked for 9 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I have 60 seconds left. I'm going to keep going and doing the thing that has failed me. No, you're right. I'm not agreeing with you. But that's what I see. It's like you can, or even better, the person actually is up like 4 points or 6 points on you, and you're still trying to get those 3 points for passing. A minute left. I'm like, you're probably not. And I even see it where guys, they'll almost pass in that last minute, and then the person turtles, gets up. Maybe if they're lucky, they get an advantage, but usually they get swept anyway.
Like if I go
Like,
out,
stop doing the thing.
But if I go out into a forest and all I have is an axe, and I'm cutting down this tree, and the axe isn't working,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna pick up a stick and try and cut down a tree.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just gonna I have my axe and I'm gonna keep doing this until this tree.
That's,
is,
I mean, when there's this
is
old
cut down.
saying that, right? When all you've got is a hammer, the whole world looks like a nail. So, but it's one of those things where, you know, you get to this kind of tunnel vision
Yeah.
where, and this is the problem with some of the drilling, right? Like you drill just passing. When you ingrain it in your head to just do, like, this is what it means to do what I'm doing.
But sometimes
There's a danger. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying there is a danger that you will continue doing that thing that has been ingrained in you, regardless of like how effective it has actually proven to be in that context, right? If I'm going up against a guy who is really good at one thing, right? Whether I discover that in the middle of it, or, you know, hopefully I know it beforehand, but if you discover it in the middle of it, you need to adjust. You need to do something else. And that's really hard. I'm not saying that's easy and, oh, well, we can just figure that out, no problem. But like doing that same thing, like, okay, I tried to pass this way, I got swept. You probably shouldn't try to pass that way again.
I feel like people typically do that because, like, well, people do
They don't
things
have
because
any
they
other
work.
ideas.
No, I mean, people do things because they worked in the past.
Yes.
No one's like doing things over and over and over again because they had a random idea and they think that if they keep trying it, it'll eventually work, right?
True.
It's usually like they've been double-legging people for the past 3 years. This has always worked,
Right.
and it's not all of a sudden not working. And I mean, sometimes like, yeah, the best strategy is do something else, but sometimes you just need to like tweak a thing.
Yeah. No. I'm not saying like, oh, these people are wrong and that's wrong. I mean, it's hard. They're operating at a very high level, and you know, there's the thing of like, you have these sunk costs, right? I've worked on this guard, right, and it's gotten me this far. This guy just dismantled me, right? Even though I was playing my favorite guard, and I even got the things that I wanted to get.
Yep.
And if I just tweak it a little bit, maybe.
Probably not,
Probably not.
but sometimes yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Sometimes the person's just, the people, you know, they're just better than you are.
I mean, you've been in situations where you've been like learning things from someone, and they show you just like one detail that
Yes.
changes everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just like need that.
But you know, there's the thing of, you know, that one detail for a particular technique that will help you, right? It might help you,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, maybe it just makes it easier to finish, or makes it more difficult for the person to escape, or you have that much more control, or whatever it is. I'm not sure that is going to get you as much mileage as an attitude of being able to like be open-minded and improvise and adapt to a particular situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm always the most frustrated, like, or impressed, kind of frustrated / impressed, the people that are able to like, they don't insist. You know, like it's easy to just like, you know, like, and sometimes that works.
Yeah.
Sometimes that is the answer, right?
Sometimes
Because
that is the answer.
the best way to cut through the Gordian knot, or is to cut it. So, or untangle, I guess is the right word I was looking for. But a lot of times it is not.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just what is like, I see that a lot, where people, they try to do the same thing over and over again,
Yeah.
and it gets them in hot water every time. It's like you're saying, right? Like, oh, you've done this thing all the time, and it works all the time,
Yeah.
and then you get somewhere, and it's like, okay, it's unfair to expect you to like change gears, because this is something you've worked on and you've invested in, and maybe that's the best
Well,
thing
it's
that you
not
know.
like it's not like you do it because you've invested all of your time in it.
Yeah.
You just do things, right? Like when you're out there, you're not like, I've worked so hard on this double leg, I'm gonna show it off to the world. It's like
Some people.
but like, but in general, it's like you do things because they get you further.
Well, it's the idea of, right, like what you were talking about, like, there are some places that are like, this is the style that we do. Like, this is how we train. This is how we prepare. This is how we compete. This is our style, right? And they don't want to hear, and they might have tremendous success with that, so they don't want to tinker with it. I'm not questioning that. What I'm saying is, don't be the person who keeps doing the thing that's not working over and over and over again. Without at least, the only caveat I would put to that is, when it doesn't matter where you are in the process, right? When you are trying to perfect a technique, you shouldn't give up on it just because it doesn't work.
Yes.
In that moment,
Yeah.
right? Like, most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, the first time you try to do something, it doesn't work.
I feel like 90%
Maybe 100%
of the time,
of the time.
like 95% of the time, the things that you do don't work.
Like even the good stuff that you are good at.
That's the 5%.
Yeah.
Like, and even then, that usually, like, that stuff, like, I don't get stuff on the first try. Like, things, like, I try,
Yeah.
and then something happens, and then I have an
Yeah.
opening.
Yeah.
I don't go in there like, I'm gonna,
I mean,
anyway.
Marcelo Garcia,
Yeah.
Hodger Gracie,
Yeah.
you know, these guys, I mean, if you watch what they do, it's not like they go out and they just like throw the person to the ground and fall back into an arm lock and they win in 1 minute. It's like there's a battle. They have to, if you watch Marcelo's matches, like he'll try to arm drag people. Like yes, he has arm drag people onto the back and he's choked them out in 30 seconds. But the majority of his matches, he's got to try to do something multiple times before he hits it.
There is a good value of having a solid strategy, I think, when going out, though. Like a base
No. What I was gonna say is like it doesn't matter where you are. If you're trying to get better, like improve or refine a technique, right? There's nothing wrong with like experimenting with it or failing with it, as long as you're consciously trying to make adjustments to each one of those things.
Yeah.
Right? So I put my elbow here, my weight was over here, I tried to stuff the arm or whatever, the knee, and he converted me, and I got swept. Okay, well, maybe I need to switch my elbow position so that my arm, my arm isn't as easily, or I got Kimmered. Well, maybe I can move my head position, or you know what I mean? Like you shouldn't let that, the general idea of don't do stuff that isn't working stop you from developing stuff that does work.
Yeah.
With some more work, You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
You should start with a solid foundation of things that have been proven to work, and then
Yes.
be willing to divert from it as necessary. Like,
Yes.
people are different. People are gonna do things that other people haven't done, and especially as like people's understanding of the meta evolves, especially people who are aware of what people usually do, like they might do something specifically that they think that you're not going to think of, and if you're not willing to adapt, it's going to be weird. You're not going to. It's just you're going to be behind. But like, there should be a balance. This reminds me of. I used to hear a story. Tim Slade used to tell me like the story he used to hear about wrestlers, and wrestling there's like 3 periods, right?
I think there are 2 periods in.
Well, in this story there are 3.
Okay.
Right. So
I
it's
think in
like
high school wrestling there's probably 3.
high school
I'm
wrestling.
not sure about college.
And the
Internationals too.
the story was like the coach is talking about like what it takes to win matches, and I guess like for 2 people who were wrestling against each other, the first match he says goes to the person with the better technique, right?
First period.
First period.
Yeah.
Sorry, the second period will go to the person with the better conditioning and cardio and physicality, and then the third period goes to the person who cares the most, who has the biggest
heart.
Who has the heart.
Who wants it more.
And I feel like these are the 3 things that need to be prioritized in jiu-jitsu, and the level of prioritizing is in that order, right? First is technique. You need to know what's going on. You need to have an idea of what's happening. Second, you need to have the physicality to be able to carry that out, right? Everything that we do requires muscle movement. Like you can't do jiu-jitsu.
That's not true.
And absolutely, even
Not everything, because you can frame and not really need muscles.
no, but you can't. In order to create that frame, you
Yeah,
have
that's
to move
fine,
your
just-
arm. Like, and in order to stabilize it, like
Yes.
it takes muscle. You will
That's
have to
true.
have a level of physicality. You can't ever win jiu-jitsu by doing nothing,
Technique conquers all, Kevin.
with some exceptions like disqualifications. But and then after that is heart, right?
Yeah.
Like you need to.
I think
develop-
heart is the most important.
It's
thing.
not. It's absolutely not. But it can't be neglected.
Well, let me back up. I'm not saying that just the kind of like scrappy, never say die attitude on the mat. You see people like,
You
oh,
see that,
you see that.
but
But
it's
what I mean is
worthless
by that,
without-
what I mean by that is a little different, which is the heart to come in and train hard consistently, right? Being persistent and maybe stubborn
Yes.
and just never giving up. Like that's when I think of like there's toughness like physical toughness and endurance, which is important, right? If you're sturdy and you can like withstand a lot of damage or like endure, suffer,
Yes.
that is not to be discounted or I don't know what the right word is, but not to be dismissed, okay? But that it will only get you beatings.
I feel like that's part of the. Are you talking about mental toughness?
Now I'm talking about like discipline and mental toughness of like being consistent training, you know, and trying to keep an open, you know, growth mindset, right? Like, how do I get better every day? And you know, that's hard because motivationally, you know, you're gonna hit plateaus, you're gonna hit the valleys, you're gonna get injured, stuff's gonna happen, you're gonna get depressed. You know, there's all these things that interfere. I was reading, I used to do a lot of reading in sports performance. And, you know, like how much practice, you know, like how do you practice? And there's like a whole branch of sports science that talks about, you know, mental toughness and mental attitude and how important it is. Because at the high, like, you know, we can always say like the highest levels, you know, just a little bit, the person who's a little stronger is going to prevail, all things being equal. But the willingness to train, like if you're not motivated to train as hard or harder than all the other people, you know, and some people just drop out, right? They just burn out. They train too hard for too long and they don't take a break. So it takes mental toughness, you know, to like step back and like, okay, I don't want to burn myself out. I don't want to overtrain, get injured, and not be able to compete or do whatever to reach the goal that I want, right? I remember there was one guy who was a brown belt. You know who I'm talking about, Bobby. And, you know, he had a knee issue. Bobby from Heroes. Yeah, but he was a brown belt. And I remember, he, you know, he has a knee issue, and he won't stand up, and he, you know, like he just plays golf in top position. And he was saying, I forget what his specific injury was, but it was like, he was thinking about getting surgery. And I was like, don't get surgery. Wait till you get your black belt and then go get your surgery.
Why?
Because, you know, it's gonna take, from my perspective, like I'm like, you're not, the way that you're training right now is fine, right? Like, it's fine, he's good, he's getting better. Like every day I go watch him, he's getting better. He's a smart guy, he trains hard. He's tough, not a question about whether he's tough or not. You know, he's strong, he's a good athlete. You know, like, I'm like, he's going, if he keeps training, I'm like, look, if you can't walk, or you can't train, or you think like this is such a tremendous like potential for like long-term damage, go get your surgery, take care of yourself first. But if you think you can keep training this way, don't get the surgery, because then you're gonna be out for 6 months or longer.
But either way, you're gonna be out for 6 months or longer.
Yeah, but you'll be out with a black belt.
Yeah, but who cares?
Well, I mean, I'm speaking from the perspective of somebody who took a break as a brown belt when I should have just powered through. So I was speaking from personal experience that I wish that I had just powered through my brown belt instead of taking my break.
But did you take a break because of surgery?
I took a break, I got sick, like, so I had my knee infection.
Yeah.
And so,
And you got hospitalized.
and I was in the hospital, so that kind of threw me mentally for a loop. I didn't want to go back there, so I was like, I'm in the hospital on an IV. I was like delirious, you know, and I was like, this place is it's filthy. It's filthy. I can tell you many stories.
Was that this place?
No, this is why this place is as clean as it is.
Yeah.
The place I'm talking about is my old academy in New York City. And I mean, maybe they've improved it, I'm sure they have. But when I was there, I could tell you stories that would make you vomit. I mean, as gross as you can imagine, it happened. It happened.
Gross.
Probably grosser than you can imagine.
I doubt it. I feel pretty gross.
It's gross. So I was like, what am I going to go back in? I'm going to get another infection. And like everybody had infections. People had like staph infection. Like one guy, Aaron, he had like a thing on his neck that was like this black nastiness. Everybody had staph infections. Everybody who trained, all my training partners, all got staph infections. It was bad. It was bad. And I was like, we're lucky to just be getting staph. You know, like we're lucky it's not like herpes or I don't know, black plague or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's gross.
So I was like, this isn't like
It's not worth it.
we're gonna train hard and we're gonna get injured, right? Like that's just par for the course. You're gonna get hurt. Something's gonna break. It's something. When you have infections, that's like you can't be like, oh, I'm gonna just tap early and not get an infection, right? Like you're gonna get an infection, and you know, for me, it was like, so I had this mental kind of like reticence to go back.
Yeah.
And then that coincided with my first daughter being born. So it was like, now I had an excuse, if you will, or another
a legitimate reason.
a reason that was like, okay, you know, and I didn't want to bring that shit home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to, I was like, what if I pass, what, you know, because I heard stories about people, you know, they get an infection, it gets in their house, and now it's, you know, the baby's gone. I'm like, my wife will divorce me, right? I will get kicked out of the house. So I was like, okay, I can't. And in retrospect, I still think that was the right decision. But, you know, like if you can stay and stick it out, you should stay and stick it out. You know, as long as you're not actually risking long-term
But
health.
you're not really like, you're not sticking it out. Like
You're getting your black belt.
But then
Because I was like, you're probably going to get your black belt within the next year. Get your black belt, as opposed to waiting 2 or 3 more years before your black belt. Because you're right, you may be out for the same period of time, but you're not getting any younger.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess if like getting a black belt is your goal.
Yeah, it's everybody's goal. That's everybody's goal. That is everybody's goal. Everybody does jiu-jitsu once until you're a black belt. And you're like, ah, now black belt, you know, whatever.
No, like I wanted a black belt, but that wasn't my goal.
Well, you want it. Okay,
I wanted it, but like
that's what I'm saying. Everybody wants their black belt.
Like if you
don't want your black belt, I gotta say, like,
I wouldn't put off surgery.
I wasn't like, I think I should be a black belt, or like at some point I was like, I'll probably never be a black, and I was fine with that, but I wanted to be a black belt.
Yeah, but that's not like the goal. I feel like if
yeah, you're right. I'm not saying that the black belt itself is the goal, but you want to have the skills. You want to have the
either way, like you take that time off. I feel like you'll be
but there's a risk you don't come back. There's a risk that something happens in your surgery. There's a risk that you know, for whatever reason, you know, you stop training and you don't come back.
That makes sense. Okay.
Right? I mean, because that's what happened. That's essentially what happened to me. I stopped.
But you came back.
After
That's
like 3.5 years.
Yeah.
You know, but and you know, and it wasn't any like then it was even harder because I was essentially coming back. I was a brown belt, but I was really like
late blue,
like a
purple.
shitty purple, you know, maybe.
I guess the only reason I said that was because I couldn't picture a world where Bobby doesn't come back. You know,
Right,
like,
that's true.
like
But
it's-
you know, but you never know, man. When you go to surgery,
Yeah,
you don't know. The doctor could do some crazy stuff.
I mean, they could probably take that man's leg and he would probably try.
He would. I have no doubt.
You're correct.
But
You're correct.
because I feel like either way you're gonna take that time off. But for me, that is from the perspective of a younger, healthier person. Like
That's what I'm saying. It's,
the odds of me coming back are greater, and I would feel bad if I had to leave the sport without being able to say like I achieved a black belt.
and he should like he was like I'm like it wasn't like always a purple belt. I'm like
Yeah.
if you just keep a you know like
No,
a brown like a new brown. I was like
Bobby's good.
it wasn't like you know like somebody who's like if the person had like 3 years to go,
Yeah.
I would have been like all right go get your surgery. But
Yeah.
or the other thing is like okay you're a competitive athlete and you need to be fully functional to compete on a high level.
Yeah.
You probably should take a break, get your surgery.
I think he ended up competing anyway, didn't he? Like,
Yeah, but I mean, he's Bobby. I'm just, you know,
yeah.
there are lots of stories of people who injure themselves and do something dumb. And sometimes they get through it and they're like, oh, I did it on a broken ankle. And other times they're like, no, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I mean, I told you the story yesterday where I dislocated my arm and I tried to keep going, and that was a bad idea.
That's a bad idea. I've done that too.
But
It's a flesh wound.
it was like my second tournament or something, third, and so I was just not focused on what was important.
No, you get that tunnel vision. That's why competing is like both awesome and very dangerous because you get that tunnel vision.
It's a completely different experience. It's so weird.
It's so funny that like, you know, when you're outside of it and you're just like, oh, it's just a piece of plastic, and you're like, well, you know, why are these guys killing each other? But when the bell rings and it's just you and that other guy, it is a fight to the death. You are ready to murder that guy across the map.
And like you're ready to lose arms if need
You
be.
are ready. You're like you make that mental calculation in your head of like, you know what? I'm not tapping to that straight arm lock. You know, like I'm not tapping to that thing.
Yep, I do make that.
You see guys who pay the price every tournament. You see somebody who's like, they don't tap to that ankle lock or they don't tap to the steamer lock, and then they got carried off the mat because
that warrior mentality.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's kind of self-induced in a lot of cases where people just want to be that guy who can tough it through. And it's because like in jiu-jitsu schools, we do kind of emphasize mental toughness, right?
Yeah.
And like this is a prime time to show everybody how mentally tough you are. Not the best time.
There's a
probably
line
better
between
ways.
mental toughness and just
Insanity.
stupidity.
Yeah, but
I mean, but look, if you're Jacare in the finals of the world, you know, absolute match, and
might be worth it.
hey, I don't. No one ever said Jacare made a mistake. You know, he has a medal that you know, and beat one of the best guys in the, if not the best guy in the world.
Yeah.
And you
By
can't
any
take that
means.
away from him, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, everyone admires him.
Yeah. Just don't be the guy who's doing that at the
At
academy.
Naga, at Naga in the novice division.
Yeah, not either. Though, like, you know, I don't know. I've been that guy.
Yeah, don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
We're all that guy, though.
We're all a little bit that guy,
Yeah.
but like, try not to be. It's probably better for you in the long run. But I don't know.
You know, I don't. And the
Don't
other
be
thing is,
that
I
guy
don't
for
think you
too long.
have to be that guy to be really good. There are definitely guys who are really, really good who aren't that kind of. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say foolish because like we've all done it. You're not that pig-headed and stubborn.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
I don't know any black belts who aren't stubborn.
No, I don't mean like stubborn in the sense of like regular stubborn. I mean stubborn in the sense of like I don't care if you break my arm.
Yeah.
I will not tap to you.
Yeah.
Like I know guys who are like they're not like that. They're just good enough to not be in that position.
Maybe you've just never gotten them into that position.
Yeah, because they're so damn good.
Yeah. So how do you know if they've never been in that?
Be the guy. I would rather be the guy who's that damn good
Yeah.
than the guy who's got to be the pighead, risk breaking his own arm.
They're not mutually
'Cause you won't
exclusive.
tap.
though. Just because
You're
you
right.
can't get that person into that position where he has to make some choices.
But there's a reason why that person is the way that they are.
What do you mean?
It's not an accident. I mean, it's like a different mentality, right? It's a different mindset of, it's the mindset of, you know, I'm thinking of somebody in particular. I'm thinking of Gregor Gracie, who I've seen as a young man, like he's 17, 18 when he first came here. And, you know, now he's, you know, he was always really good. He just wasn't that active on the competition scene. But now he's like going in and doing masters tournaments and beating everybody. He beat Rafael Lovato Jr. at the absolutes this year. I mean, this was the
Worlds?
it was Masters Worlds, but I mean it was less. There were less people.
COVID Masters.
You know, COVID Masters.
Yeah.
But you know, like Gregor, it was sort of like Matt Serra in the sense that you know, people talk about like be like water, like that, like he really was, right? Like there was never a moment where, even though he's yoked, right? As a kid he wasn't that. He was fit. He was like surfing, but he's not like, he doesn't muscle you.
Yeah.
He doesn't. It's not a like a type of ever. Even though he's yoked,
Yeah.
you know, it's like he's just
But like,
flowing
are
around.
you sure he doesn't muscle you or he doesn't muscle you?
No, because I've seen him roll with other people,
And it's always the same?
and he doesn't. I mean, I think he can, right? Like he can, if you can decide, like I'm just gonna be, you know, like forceful, like you
Yeah.
can do that.
Yeah.
Just like somebody who's really strong and usually very forceful can say, I want to roll today.
Yeah.
That's not their default mode, but his default mode, I would say, is
Like,
much more light, flowy. Could still be fast. It could still be like razor sharp and catch you in a second.
yeah.
But it's not like grindy. You know, some people are grindy. Like John is very grindy.
Yeah.
You know, he locks you in. He makes things very uncomfortable, and you're forced to move in directions, or like you feel like your head's gonna pop off, or your shoulder's gonna come separated, or you know what I mean? Like it's that level, and then like the pressure is like unbelievable pressure.
Yeah.
Gregor's not like that. Gregor's the one that's like kind of letting you move around and playing with you, and you know what I mean? It's kind of like if you watch
That reminds me of Alan Sanchez.
like Rafa Mendes rolling with some of his students, when he's like letting them come up and he'll pull them and he'll do like his crazy like step over, and then he's like surfing them, and
Yeah.
you know, or Bruno Malfacine when he's doing his kind of thing, and they're not even working hard. But they're so fast, they're so sharp. They can finish that person like that. You know they can.
Mhm.
Everyone knows they can. They're just playing, but it's like they're not playing. You know what I mean? Like that. And I think that's
you know, the best guys can do it all, right? The best guys are pig-headed and will never tap. But even they have tapped. Even they have tapped. Everyone's gotten tapped except for Roger Gracie.
Sure.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody's been tapped except for Roger Gracie.
I feel like you needed to have both of those elements, where you're pig-headed and floaty. Where you know.
Yeah, no. I mean, the best guys can do it all, right? The best guys can do it all. But I'm saying there are guys that are on their default, they're more floaty. They're more the guys. I think they're harder to catch. They're harder to catch because they're not
Wasting.
They're not like
Wasting.
they're not trying to like force you to do things.
Yeah.
Because when you force things, then like you're like my arm's going straight, right? Like it's just a stupid example,
But at the same time, like, there is value in being able to have like a strong primary attack, and then and then being able to flow with their action.
No, they all have. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. Like they can all. I'm not saying like just be the flow or they only flow. Like you're saying, right? Like they're. Maybe it's like the yin and yang. You gotta have both. You gotta be able to grind when you need to grind, and you need to be able to flow when it's time to flow. I mean, I think that's the only corny answer I come up with. That actually makes sense.
It does. I mean, that's why I brought up the three things, right? Like, if you come to a point where you're stagnating, right? Like, there are three options that you could choose to improve. You could focus on improving technique. You could focus on improving your ability to move, or you could focus on your ability to try harder, right? And so if like
try harder.
Well, if flowing's not for you, if flowing stops working, try to get stronger.
Yeah.
Or like maybe like you just need to work harder at the thing that you're doing. Maybe you just need to be more engaged. Like maybe you just need to keep showing up and practicing and keep trying, and it'll eventually work. But like if you're starting to stagnate, like the answer isn't always you need better technique. You know, it's usually
technique.
It's usually the answer. Yeah. But if you're coming to a technical stagnation, working on technique isn't going to get you through that. Like working on something else might be the thing.
There are a lot of instances where people know the right technique, but they're being physically overpowered.
Yes.
They're being physically prevented from doing the things that they can't. You can't break a grip.
The argument could be: is that the correct technique then? Is that the correct technique then?
What?
If it's being physically overpowered. Anyway, sorry.
No. Like what I'm saying is like you can. Let's say I'm playing daily Eva, and you're trying to pass mine, and we're having Eva, right? And I'm making grips, and you physically are too weak to break my grips, right? Well, I mean, all the passing in the world is not going to help you if you can't
break the grips,
right? It's like in judo they talk about like we all focus in judo on the throws.
Yeah.
You know, the mechanics of the throws, the big gross movements, right? But if you can't grip somebody, you will never throw them. And if they outgrip you, you are not going to throw them. You may be so good that they can't throw you, but if you can't make good grips, like the grips that you need to throw, like if I can prevent you from gripping, well, you're not going to throw me, right? And so at some point, maybe it's a question of I need to be stronger, I need to be faster, I have to improve something, I need to be more flexible, right? Like maybe I'm playing a guard that requires a little bit more flexibility, then I need to work on my flexibility, or whatever it is, you know, I'm just making these things up.
Yeah.
Or play a whole different type of guard, you know, maybe I should be doing something else.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that like if you're coming up with these plateaus, like hit the gym, you know, or like start working on your mental toughness. Sometimes, honestly, just doing something completely different.
Yeah, go do some yoga.
No, not even yoga. Like when you're doing jiu-jitsu, like if you've been single-legged people, I've been rolling with Aziz, and whenever I'm in side control, he always comes up into a single and he tries to take me down, and it hasn't worked. And and then like
he keeps trying to do it, right?
He keeps trying to do it, and I keep doing the thing, and I'm just waiting for that day when he comes up on the single and then doesn't, and then I'm just like left with my mind blown over here. Because like sometimes it's not just like you're not trying to like fool the other person. You just need to put yourself in a new situation where your brain has to think of new ideas, it has new engagements or new opportunities, and then just like by being different, just for no particular reason other than the thing that you're doing isn't working. I think sometimes that could be the spark that you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Change direction. I don't know. You come up, you get your single leg stuffed. Maybe go do something else.
But the problem is, if you're just making something up on the fly, the odds are that you just come up with something that'll work is pretty low, unless like you're well trained. Like
No, I mean it should be you should be doing something technical, not just doing something.
that's the goal, right? I would say like the more technical you are, the more technical the thing that you make up will be. But it is hard at a lower rank to have the courage to break away from the known, because the odds of you getting snapped up by a monster out
Well, that's why like drilling is important. Yes, when you're rolling, if I'm rolling with you, like trying to do something that I've never done before is probably just as likely to get me in hot water as the thing that I've been doing and I know really well, but has caught me every time.
But at least I'm not expected.
I mean, at least I'll try, right? Like, but you know, like if you really want to be good at it, then you got to drill it.
Yeah. I mean,
Right. What?
my thing is usually like if I come to a plateau and then I do a new thing. Like the first time it works, it's a coincidence. Second time, first time it's a fluke. Second time it's a coincidence. Third time it's a technique,
Yeah.
and it's worth discussing, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like I do like I'll do random things on different people, and then sometimes they work, but like I just keep an eye on it, and then if that same situation comes up and I do that same thing, whatever it is, cool.
Yeah,
But then then it's something like now we can drill this.
Yeah.
Now we can look at it. I'll find a training partner. I did this the other day because I accidentally invented another thing, and I was like, I've been doing this thing. I've been hitting on everybody. Let's figure out how to not make it work. And then
like where's the fit? Yeah,
like
what is going to stop?
How can you stop it so
Right.
that
You know where your
your
failure is.
Because I don't want to be doing this thing that only works because they're convinced that it's a real thing.
Like how does somebody, like assuming somebody is like waiting for you to do this,
Yeah.
how would they stop it?
Yeah, and so like I showed Dan, showed Aziz, and we've been making progress. Like the move stopped working, and then now it's like we're building it, and it's like this. I don't know. I forget why I started talking.
You're A/B testing your
Yeah, like
techniques.
it's just like it's this process of I don't know, troubleshooting, but
Discovery and innovation.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's this mix of invention and finding. It's weird.
Yes.
And it's also very other people involved. I really
Yeah.
like having other people.
I mean, I think John. I mean, you could go watch videos of them like doing like body locks and sudeshis and trying to do things like darces. Like they did all that stuff with all the stuff they. I mean, all the like lock stuff at some point was a subject of human experimentation.
I mean, but a lot of the things that I do now, like they used to like a lot of them were just stuff that I did once and they worked, and they just kept.
You got to come up with Kopecky Jitsu. I think BJJ Fanatics is looking for more content. So
What I want is to give people the tools to develop their own jiu-jitsu, and that's hard because I can teach you the stuff that I do, but like I want to be able to teach people why and how I do the things that I do, because like the stuff that I do isn't going to work for people.
I just want to teach the world how to sing in perfect harmony.
I don't know.
Young people won't get that, but do you know what I'm referring to?
You reminded me of I think Ludacris song. No.
What? No, stop it.
No.
The Eagles would have been funnier.
Oh, sorry.
Ludicrous.
Who am I thinking of? I just want to sing.
I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony.
Oh, I remember that. Who is that? Is that the guy who sings Baby Beluga? Rafi, that's who I'm thinking.
Let's see if any look in the comments. Does anybody understand what I'm talking about here? Does anybody get my reference? Maybe not. All right. Well, extra bonus points if anyone can figure out what the heck I'm talking about. All right, guys.
It's Rafi.
Enjoy the video of our logo doing things. See you tomorrow.
I know the song. I don't know who sings it. No, it's a commercial. I'll give you a hint. It's a commercial.
It's a commercial.
Yes.
Ugh, that makes me feel ill.
Why?
I don't want a commercial in my head if it doesn't